Detective Dawson said. Welsh made an additional move that made the investigators look at him more suspiciously. On August 4th, he factory reset his department-issued phone before turning it in. He claimed this was because he had personal numbers stored in his contacts and wanted to remove them, but this could have been done without resetting the phone. He also sent the evidence photos to his personal phone, which went against department policy. The suspect replied.
Okay, where are those photographs at now?
They were on my work phone, but I've sent them to this phone also.
This one statement changed the course of interrogation on that particular day. Welcome to my channel. I am new on YouTube, so your review will mean a lot to me. On the humid night of July 29th, 2021, the air hung thick over Summer County, South Carolina, as highway patrol officers set up a routine DUI checkpoint along Pearson Road and Old Stone Road. Around 11:30 p.m., Trooper James Welsh, a decorated officer once named Trooper of the Year, stopped a driver named John Holliday, whose car reeked of alcohol and marijuana. Inside, Welsh found bags of marijuana edibles and 2 large bundles of cash, totaling over $100,000. The money was seized, logged, and transported to the local post office for counting. Hours later, a $3,140 discrepancy appeared in the bank's total. Days after, Welsh claimed he found a sealed evidence bag with cash in his patrol car. But the officers noticed contradictions in the story of Welsh, so they brought him in for interrogation.
Got to go over some paperwork before we get started. I'm going to give you a form, and I will fill out the top portion. You'll see that there are boxes here on this form. I'm going to review this form with you. That is your form. On those boxes, as I read those statements there, just if you understand, put your initials in those boxes, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand this is an investigation to determine whether any criminal laws have been violated. I understand and acknowledge that this is not an internal, administrative, or disciplinary inquiry. I understand and acknowledge that I have not been compelled or coerced to give a statement or answer any questions regarding this matter. I understand and acknowledge that my cooperation with this investigation is freely and voluntarily given. All right, and where it says signed, if you would please sign your name for me. All right, and slide it back to me. All right, if you would please tell me your first name.
First name is James.
And what's your middle name?
Cameron.
And last.
Welsh. W-E-L-S-H.
Do you go by, what do you go by?
Cam.
All right, Cam, what's your date of birth? And a good contact number for you?
8.
And what is your address?
Paperwork as a commitment trap. The calm, polite form reading ties Welsh to voluntary, unpressured participation. Signing isn't clerical. It removes later excuses. He commits to the room and to his own words before the real questions even begin.
Would you please review with me and tell me from start to finish what took place that evening?
Okay. So that night, I don't know an approximate time, me and my guys, we did a checkpoint on Pearson Road at Old Stone Road. We were there just a short time before a vehicle came through our checkpoint that I actually spoke with. The suspect's name is John Holliday. He had a strong odor of alcohol and marijuana coming out of the vehicle. He also had a cup sitting in his lap of alcohol. At that time, I flashed my flashlight at one of my guys I got him out of the vehicle for him to come do a field sobriety test.
Who was the guy that you flashed the light at?
Trooper Will Baker, W.E. Baker. So as soon as I asked the guy to get out of the vehicle, did a safety frisk on him. Trooper Baker took control of the stop and began doing field sobriety tests. The car was still parked in the middle of the road, so I asked Mr. Holliday if I could move his vehicle, got permission from him. I moved it to the shoulder of the road, kind of like a little dirt lane that was right there in the crossroads. And at that time when I was moving the car in plain view, in the passenger seat, I could see a plastic bag, kind of like a dark colored grocery bag type thing, with edibles in it. You could see they were individually packaged edibles. I don't know how many, can't remember how many it was, but it was a lot of them. So between that, the alcohol, and seeing the edibles, that gave us, probable cause to search the vehicle. Trooper Baker was doing field sobriety. I had another trooper that was still conducting the safety checkpoint, but we were all in proximity of each other, within 15, 20 foot of each other.
Who was the other trooper?
ZG Reichard. Last name is Rickard.
You know his first name?
Zachary.
Okay. All right, so Zach's still over there doing a checkpoint?
Yeah, Zach's still over there doing the checkpoint, still talking with some cars. And so at that point, I just kind of glanced over the vehicle as I was getting out. Could see in the back seat 2 large bags, so I figured, got a big bag of dope here, there might be 2 more big bags of dope. So I opened the back door. As soon as I looked in, I grabbed the first brown bag out and stuck it on the trunk of the car, and that's when I noticed it was full of money.
Invite the story, don't fight it. She lets him narrate freely and watches for spots where he justifies tiny choices, moving the car, opening a bag, who he called. Preemptive defense is signal weak ground. She notes those soft spots for later pressure.
We sat there, kind of went back and forth. I offered him the case, told him, I said, hey, this is a local guy. He's got drugs, large sum of money. Y'all can work this better than we can. And he made some phone calls and then told me that they couldn't take it.
Who's he?
Deputy Graham. Simeon Graham.
Do you by chance know how to spell his first name?
I don't. I know it's S-E-Y, I think.
So Simeon Graham was one of the Sumter County narcotics?
He is. He would have been the lead guy, the more senior guy. The other 2 were fairly new.
Do you know who the other 2 were?
I do. They were Brooke Bird, female, and Jeremy Shirley.
All right.
So after talking with them, they wanted to take it. I think they called their higher ups. They didn't want to mess with it. So that's when I started making my chain of command notifications. The on-call lieutenant was Lieutenant T. Alford, Teresa Alford. That is who I called. That is A-L-F-O-R-D.
Okay.
Called her, spoke with her, told her what we had, and she said I brought up the DEA, and I said, do we have any contacts with the DEA through our criminal interdiction guys? So she started making phone calls with that, and then I got a few phone calls from one of our CIU guys, and then Corporal Nix called me, and he told me, he said, just gather the money up, transport it from that location to your office, that I was en route to your office to take possession of.
So Lieutenant Alford brought up notifying DEA?
I brought it up to her.
Okay.
And just honestly, just trying, because I know the DEA, I've worked with them before, and they'll come out and seize everything, take over the whole case, and be done with it.
And she made phone calls?
She did. And also sent me numbers of people to call. I can't remember who they were, but I know everybody I tried calling wouldn't answer. I actually contacted a captain with Clarendon's narcotics unit.
And who's that?
Matt Kennedy.
Let him talk past the comfort point. Encouraged to keep detailing, he moves from facts into filler. Extra detail becomes loose thread. Repeated retellings blur precision. She doesn't interrupt. The aim is to collect contradictions he creates himself.
Was quite a bit. The majority of this money was 20s. I think it came out to be over $80,000 in 20s. So we had a huge stack of it. So we separated the stack into three parts. So me, Reichard, and Baker, we would take the 20s and stack them, count them in 50, like 50 $20 bills. That's $1,000. We'd walk around the other side of the kiosk, put a stack on the table. And so we just lined that entire table up. We actually ran out of room, went to another table, and every one of them was 50. So that way when we got done, we could go and count how many stacks we had, and that would tell us the total amount.
When you stacked them in 50s, was it just one person that counted, okay, hey, there's 50? And then, so...
All 3 of us were stacking them in 50s.
All right, so your stacks of 50, Did Baker and Reichert come back behind you and verify they were 50s?
No, ma'am.
And then when I say 50s, 50 count.
50 count.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I got you.
So no one checked whether or not those were accurate 50.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So once y'all get the,
And I told them, now, I would bet my life, I know all the stacks that I did were 50 because I know how serious this is. And I told both of them, because I know they'd never really dealt with this stuff, I said, if you're not sure on your stack of 50, I said, recount it again. You know, they would verify that, how strict I was, telling them to make sure it's accurate. And I even looked at them and said, your job depends on it. Are you sure these stacks are 50? Both of them said yes.
and that's Baker and Reichert.
Baker and Riker.
Okay.
So after that, we tallied up everything, how many 20s we had. I came up with a number on my tally sheet, and that's when Nick's went back through and counted everything, and we agreed on the number.
Hook him on identity. When he boasts about organizing the count and being serious about accuracy, she lets that pride breathe. Now, any counting flaw cuts his self-image, not just his conduct. That makes backtracking painful and admissions more revealing.
Yeah. We sat there, we talked for a few minutes or whatever while Matt was loading up the money, and we all left.
All right. So how did Matt load up the money? Did he put it in any kind of bags?
I know he put it, because I had initially thrown that brown bag away that it came in, and he didn't really have bags big enough for it to go in. I remember him saying that. So we grabbed that bag out of the trash can. I know he put it back in that, but I can't remember if he put it in. I think he did put it in evidence bags. I'm pretty sure he did put it in evidence bags, but he used that brown bag to kind of tote it on.
All right. So what? Do you remember seeing him put it in evidence bags, or do you just think he put it in evidence bags? And if you don't remember, you don't remember.
I remember him having evidence bags, and I remember him asking me if I had big evidence bags, because I know he didn't have anything big enough, like huge ones. So I looked in the kiosk where we keep them and showed him. I said, this is the biggest we got, and that's all he had. So
Did you give him any of those evidence bags?
No,
He already had some.
He already had some identical to it. So he may have packed it all, and I think he did. I'm pretty sure he just did a bunch of small ones. I'm almost positive he did.
Do you recall if he took photographs of the bags of evidence?
I don't remember.
But you do remember he put the money that you had brought in and counted out into that brown paper to-go bag.
Yeah, I know he used that. And I am 99% sure that he put it in evidence bags. He was just looking for a bigger one, that way he could stick it all in there,
Right.
instead of using separate ones.
All right, so what happened after that?
Well, a little bit ahead of that, to go back to the drugs. The drugs were he didn't take those. They stayed at our office. They were put in the evidence locker.
Okay.
Like I said, after that was all over, we talked for a few minutes or whatever. We were all tired, about to fall asleep. I was supposed to get off at midnight. I was working a split shift, and this was early in the morning.
What's your split shift? What hours does that
12 to 12.
Normalize fatigue. Isolate responsibility. She acknowledges the late hour and the mountain of 20s, then quietly separates process from excuses. Tired is understandable. Mishandling is not. This funnels him toward owning outcomes rather than hiding behind a night.
Go home, go back to sleep. Well, anyway, when I was on my way home that morning, Nick's called me, and he told me that they were missing $3,000 or over $3,000 in the final count. Or they took the money to the bank, and the bank says it was only like 107, something like that, and we counted like 110. So I said, dude, I don't know, have a clue what's going on with that. I said, but I just went ahead and told him then. I said, listen, I found an evidence bag of money in my car. I said, it's not $3,000. I said, so it has, and it wasn't even counted. This fell in between the briefcase and my back seat. I said, so it has nothing to do with the missing money. I said, but tell me what I need to do to get this turned into evidence. Nick's told me then that I needed to contact my chain of command, which I did. I called Sergeant DeVos. Then I called Lieutenant Dan back, and
Dan back?
D-A-N-B-A-C-K.
Do Do you know Lieutenant Dan Back's first name?
Mark.
Okay.
So then I called them. I was already getting dressed because Matt told me, he said, just come on up to Central Evidence. And so I was en route to Central Evidence, went ahead and got dressed because I had to work that night anyway. And spoke with Dan back and all them. I got to Central Evidence, talked with Matt. Matt told me that I needed to go to Troop 1 headquarters and turn the evidence in over there. So I went over there, turned the evidence into Lieutenant Dan Back and Captain Chris Shelton.
Use silence to make him fill the gaps. When he reveals the found later in my car evidence bag, she doesn't pounce. The pause makes him feel the weight of the room and keep talking. Each added rationalization sounds thinner, tightening the net without a raised voice.
They counted it. It came up to be over $800.
Dan Back and Shelton counted the money?
They did, in front of me. It was $894. After that, we honestly sat around and waited a while, and then Major Patterson, that's Everett Patterson, showed up and gave Lieutenant Shelton, or Captain Shelton, a piece of paper, and he read it to me and notified me that I was suspended. And Dan Back took me home.
You said Chris Shelton's
Mhm.
Major?
Chris Shelton is the captain.
Captain.
The major is Everett Patterson, Everick Patterson.
And so Shelton's the one that reviewed the paperwork with you and told you?
Shelton and Dan Back. Well, no, the suspension, I guess Patterson gave it to Shelton. Shelton read it to me since he's my captain.
And what did your suspension include?
It was suspended until further notice.
Are you getting paid?
No, I'm not. And I lose everything on the 16th.
What do you mean you lose everything on the
Like
16th?
my insurance. I'm hoping that they'll let me pay it. Just pay it fully myself.
And why are you so concerned about losing your insurance on the 16th?
I'm having a baby a few days after that. My wife is like 38 and a half, almost 39 weeks pregnant.
Personal stakes, professional collapse. She surfaces what he stands to lose: suspension, pay, impending fatherhood, without threats. That contrast, protector versus rule breaker, provider versus unemployed, creates internal pressure to resolve the tension with truth. The more he tries to control the narrative, the clearer the unraveling becomes.